It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we have another reaction discussion video that's suggested by one of you guys. So shout out to March in the Discord community who suggested this video from not Otzdarva titled All 170 Survivor Perks Tier List and Full Explanation Dead by Daylight. And he mentions that he wants to hear about the Will to Live or Decisive Strike section because he believes that Otzdarva actually kind of nailed the description and as to why it's so strong. Now, if there was anyone else that also suggested it, shout out to you as well. But going through the thread, I was going off of whoever I could see. So that being said, let's actually take a listen to basically DS. Now, original video is linked in the description, of course, if you don't watch the full video. But we're just going to be talking about the Will to Live or Decisive Strike and just what Odds has to say about it.
The entire game. Decisive Strike, also named, if you don't own the DLC for Halloween, Will to Live. This perk is so powerful, and the best part is that, like many of the other perks in the 5-star category, they don't even need to be in the game. Just the fact that this perk exists already subconsciously dictates a lot of the killer behavior. Lots of killers that have an opportunity to play really efficiently will often sit back and be afraid that this perk could trigger, and as such give the survivors a little bit more room for error and a little bit more breathing.
That right there, I think, pretty much is extremely accurate to describe the strength of Will to Live or Decisive Strike. And that, to me, I think is a really bad design decision, right? Because to me, I say the fact that a perk is so strong, this is my perspective, the fact that a perk is so strong that literally every player who's going to go against it and has experienced going against it assumes that everyone has it. And it completely changes the entire way somebody plays because of the mere fact that its sheer existence is that powerful. That already tells me a lot, right? That already tells me that that's a problem. Because keep in mind, there's no perk on killer that survivors have to do that for, right? There's no fear as to, oh, they have this perk. Oh, no, we're cooked. We got to do this differently. Like, they don't have that. Because even if there are perks that change the gameplay for survivor, they do not have the strength level or literally the popularity that Will to Live or Decisive Strike does have, to where that it being even a whiff of it being in the game, it's like, yeah, we can't pick up, we have to literally back up and not do our job, because it's like, yo, if we get stunned, this could literally be the deciding variable that could allow us to lose this match, bar none. To me, I think that's a big problem. To me, I've constantly said that this perk is way overtuned. I've constantly stated that this perk is extremely effective against the lowest tier killers because they lack the mobility. And keeping in mind that they already did nerf Blight, maybe they'll start looking at other stuff that can be brought back down now, because they did finally nerf Blight, right? Everybody was asking for it. So maybe that could lead to more positive perk changes. I don't know. Or maybe it could be just another nail in the coffin for the killer side. Who knows? Who knows? But that's where I'm coming from with this perk. And I think Dead Heart is also a part of it, because they go hand in hand because they both activate at the same time. But this perk in general, dude, like, it's crazy. And Otzdarva literally summarizes it, because like I just said, the fact that it's so popular, so meta, so common, and it's free, right? So you could just get this as a base game perk now. So there's no paywall, there's nothing like that. Of course, that chapter was out for many years, so like people who wanted the chapter could have gotten the chapter, could have gotten the perk if they wanted it. Sometimes it appears in the shrine, stuff like that. So it's a very easy access perk, very quick to obtain and stuff like that. So it's super common and it's very meta. And its strength is felt across the board with every player, because they understand, like, because this thing can activate, I can't even just play the way I gotta play. I can't strategize the way I gotta strategize in order to win these games. But let's continue.
room. So yeah, this perk is really, really good. What it does, honestly, is incredible. Anytime you become unhooked, which is exactly when the killer would like to target you the most, it gives you a 60-second window of protection. When you become unhooked, you are injured, you really are sometimes in a really, really bad position, maybe in a hook in basement or in the middle of nowhere. It would be so easy for the killer to double tap you sometimes, or wait out the 15 seconds of endurance and then down you and then put you right back on the hook. And if they do that twice, you're out of the game. The killer is in a 3v1, and that would be the easiest way to win all of your games as killer. Killers would love to do this, but
so that right there is, I do agree with that. I do understand the idea that from the survivor's perspective, it's not fun to be getting targeted back to back to back, because a lot of survivor players are very casual. They're not really interested in trying to be in chase, or trying to have to face the killer or counter the power, or have that confidence to do that. Like, speaking for myself, when I did play survivor, the only thing I really enjoyed was being in chase, because it's all about the mind gaming and trying to like redirect, trying to misdirect, yada yada, like trying to survive as long as I can, and thinking on my feet, basically, of trying to go around and see how far I can go. That's what I found the most engaging. And unfortunately, when I did play the side, there really just wasn't a lot of opportunities to do that, because I'm usually stuck completing the bar on the gen all day long, hitting skill check and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then when I finally do get chased, it's pretty much too late, because all the resources are gone. My team is dead. So it's like, yeah, it's just like, it got really just boring. So I don't play it anymore. But I will say that I understand the idea as to why the perk may be used. Now, there's two factors that come into play with this perk. Obviously, number one is that people refuse to use it, despite how good it is. Even though they complain, oh my god, I'm being timed up all the time, then bring the perk. Now, the other issue, that the second parter, is that there are really bad loopers that put this on. And depending on the killer can determine the outcome of that actual perk use. But in most cases, a lot of people that are bringing this may be weak loopers, which means that they're getting basically an advantage for playing badly, because keeping in mind that they have to get down in under 60 seconds. Now, the timer does start when they get unhooked, but keep in mind it's still under 60 seconds. So if you're not using your base kit, endurance, and haste to get away, and potentially an exhaustion perk, because everyone brings one, to get away, and you're still going down in that window of time, which is pretty crazy, because a lot of players are, even on killer, are casual too. They're not always going after that same person, and you're still going down. That might be a problem. Like, that might be a skill issue, as we say in the business. So the fact of the matter is that I understand on the paper, but you go, hey, this perk could be pretty good for people that are getting targeted, and it's a good counter, right, strategically. But the problem is that it's not being used by those kinds of players that can maximize its value. They're not being used by smart players to go, wow, holy shit, that was good. Like, it's usually a bad player who is getting downed instantly, using it, getting a stun, and then getting downed again. But because of that span of time of having to unhook, down once, pick up, get stunned, go after them again, then down them again, then hook them, provides an, at least in my opinion, unfair advantage for weak players to get a bunch of progress with their objective. That's my issue with it. And I do think that I would have at least liked the fact that if it had some kind of prerequisite like distortion or something like that, where you can get, like, the perk unlocked, whether it be with chase time or unhooks or stuff like that, just to make it so that you have to actually participate in the match, instead of just getting down instantly and then dying, and then you get your perk activation, then you just die again, depending on the character. So, like, that's just my perspective. I think it's just a symptom of bad design for the survivor side. I do wish that they had more gameplay focused perks that require you to do things, instead of it just being like it just activates just because you exist. I don't think that's really fair.
Existence of this perk,
and the reason I want to add on to that briefly, is there are, of course, perks in the game that are just passive and don't require many things. You could say like lethal, for example. But the thing is that the strength of this perk, with comparing it to how little you need to do to get it, which is die instantly, and then you get a bunch of pressure for free, versus say brutal strength or lethal, which is like it's passive, but it's really purely up to you how you use it, right? So if I decide to use a perk that requires, usually on killer, usually if I'm using a passive perk, it requires input from the survivor. So for example, if I have brutal, I have to get the pallet to break or the gen to be even touched in the first place for it to even matter. Otherwise, brutal doesn't do anything. Or you could say even lethal, there would have to be a survivor actually there for the aura to show. Stuff like that, right? Or if we're saying, okay, well, what about the passive that goes with lethal that applies a bonus to the aura perks? Well, those things are usually activated by other things, right? Like they would have to be touched to gen for the aura to be applied to anyone eating nearby with nowhere to hide, right? Or we could say even floods of rage. You have to unhook them from a hook for them to actually get the aura reading to activate, therefore boosting that aura reading. Or whether it be I'm all ears, they have to vault a window, I think a fast vault, in order for me to see the aura. Stuff like that. So I'm just saying, the input definitely is a lot that, like, more impactful compared to they die instantly, then there's a free stun. That's makes no sense.
Almost single-handedly prevents them from doing that. This perk, if you get picked up within those 60 seconds, allows you to hit a skill check, which after a bit of practice is really not that hard, and experienced survivors hit it all the time, and then free yourself from the killer's grasp. Freeing yourself from the killer's grasp is great, because after going down and getting picked up, you no longer have any deep wound that you might have had, you no longer have any killer status effect that you might have had. Some of the killer status effects go away after being down, such as, for example, the Unknown's weekend status effect.
To add on what Otz is saying, it also affects Freddy as well. So if you get it down with Freddy, they wake up. So if you decide to pick up and you're getting stunned, then you have to reapply the sleep effect. So that's why I'm saying, like, this perk is pretty insane, because you're literally getting a free reset off of power applications usually. So like somebody like Freddy, who I don't really deem as like an S tier by any means, can kind of suffer against a couple different perks beyond just Vigil, but even also the fact that Decisive now can also just reset that sleep meter. So then you say you're using Freddy, your snares don't do anything now, your pallets don't do anything now. Now you're back to M1 Andy because of one perk. Now keeping in mind that characters like Chucky are at least able to kind of eat the DS and still get the hit. So of course, like, that's why I was saying your results may vary, but I still think it's a bit too strong. Like, I think it needs to be adjusted a little bit.
If he downs you and you use Decisive, he will have to hit you twice again with his power, right? So it pretty much resets everything. It even gives you a bit of invulnerability to go through a trapper's trap. If you are in the basement in Shack and you hit Decisive, you can go through a trap in the first couple seconds of running away from the killer. And because you are now in full control of yourself and you're not in deep wound, you can begin to use a medkit if you need to. You can use an exhaustion perk like Lithe, which is really, really good with this perk, or Dead Heart. Even if you were in deep wound before, it's now reset. And at its very, very worst, even if you just take the killer away from the action into some corner of the map and last a few more seconds, that alone is already amazing. It's already really, really good. Buying your teammates a few more seconds before they're in a 3v1 or before you go on second stage and hook, that's already really good. But what often happens with this perk is that you can do a full reset on your chase, maybe use an exhaustion perk, maybe use those few precious seconds to make it to a really strong part of the game, such as the shack, the main building, anywhere with strong pallets, and now the killer has the really difficult decision of, do I want to commit to this chase, knowing that every single one of their teammates is on gens?
That right there is, like I said, one of the biggest issues with this perk, because I think that that's a bit too powerful considering the effect, right? And Otz pretty much explains exactly why it's so overtuned, at least from my perspective, because keeping in mind that obviously, you know, an S tier killer can shrug off a majority of the perks. Now, obviously, with Blight's nerf, dropping him down his power level, I think it's just left to nurse. So at least to me, it says we need to now nerf DS, because I think it will actually help level it out for everybody else, because a lot of these perks were so strong because Blight exists. Now we nerfed him. Now it's a good time to start bringing down the perks. That's what I'm thinking. Help level it out a little bit. Because keeping in mind that DS could be a lot stronger against a weak killer like Ghost, Face Skull, Merchant, Trapper, Pig, whatever have you, comparing to say a nurse, it's like, it's not even gonna matter, because like you're getting down instantly. And keeping in mind that they also nerfed Nurse, I think, again, because I think there was a add-on that increases the lunge. I think they reduced the effect on that too. So both S tiers just got, like, took a nerf as well. So at the end of the day, it's like, we need to get this perk nerfed, dude. That's just where I'm seeing it. Because of just how powerful it is. I mean, notice that it's literally the top strongest perk on Otzdarva's tier list. The best perk that you could bring. And ironically enough, it doesn't even get brought as much, apparently, because we see a bunch of posts saying, why should I have to bring this perk? And it's like, because it's strong. Like, because it's good. It's literally the answer to your problem. You know what I mean? Now, I can't say there's an equivalent for Killer, because obviously a lot of the perks that they were using to help counter, say, gen speed or heal speed have all been completely nerfed, so they don't really work remotely as good as they used to. And they're pretty ass, but at least for Survivor, you have options to counter these things. If you're getting chased off of hook, you have Will to Live, right? If you're dealing with status effects, you have Vigil. Like, these are things that are in the game. And the entitlement behind not picking this thing because of whatever reason they feel like they don't want to bring it is only a self-fulfilling prophecy. They get themselves upset because they're the ones not bringing their own perk that they could choose to bring. Makes no sense. You can easily pick it and use it as much as you like. It's literally free. Like, you don't even have to buy the perk with real money. Like, you could just get it from the shrine. You could level up your survivor like they always do to get their little flashlights and medkits and shit. So you can pretty much see it right there in your web. Just put it on. Like, if you're supposedly getting tunneled, quote unquote. So it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't get it. This community is a little strange with how it decides to, you know, how it likes to pick and choose its little arguments and complaints and whatnot. But I want to hear what you guys think, of course. What do you think of Decisive Strike or Will to Live? Do you think that it needs to be nerfed? Do you think that it's fine where it's at? Let me know in the comments, man. Hit the like, hit the sub, man. Become a member on YouTube or Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next one. Or, oh yeah, and sub on Twitch. Alright, let's go ahead and read off these wonderful members. We got Patreon, Crow Vader. All my YouTube members, Brando, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not JLo, Evil Peach, Hargan Falcon, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. Really appreciate you guys supporting, man. And if you also subbed on Twitch, just know that you got love coming your way too. Appreciate you guys, man.